Hey y'all, we're gonna get started now with the provisional cast-on. For the provisional cast-on, you need scrap yarn, preferably something that's a little bit slick so it pulls out easily when you go to undo the provisional cast-on. This is normally my go-to. It's a nice cotton. It's a little bit dark for this tutorial, so instead I'm going to be using this linen cotton blend. This is the Juniper Moon Farm Zoe DK. It's one of my go-to yarn choices for summer garments, and I really love it, so check it out if you'd like. You'll also need your circular needle that you'll be knitting with and a crochet hook of similar size. So to begin, what we'll need to do is start with a slip knot in your yarn, your scrap yarn. And what I recommend doing is chaining a few stitches before starting that provisional cast on, okay? So for any non-crocheters out there, this took me a while to get the hang of as somebody who is not used to holding yarn like this, right? But it's worth it to learn because it makes doing the provisional cast on so much easier. So basically what you're going to want to do after you get the slip knot on your hook, you're going to wrap that yarn over this finger, over your index finger. And what I like to do is use my middle finger and my thumb to grab the tail of the yarn, because I feel like that makes me have tension on the stitch, which makes it easier to pull the chains through. So the other thing that I learned as a knitter trying to crochet, the direction that you wrap the yarn around the hook matters. Here's what I mean. To chain, you want to go behind the hook, over the hook, and then pull it through. If you do it the other way, it doesn't work. I struggled with this so much at first. So, just like yarn overs and knitting, the way that you wrap the yarn matters. Go behind the hook, over the hook, and then pull that through. So once you chain 4 or 5 stitches on your yarn, what I like to do is put my yarn down and tie a knot in this end. That way I know which way my chain started, so I know which end to pull from to get the provisional cast on off in one fell swoop. So I've got a couple chains, few chains on here. Now I'm going to pick up my circular needle. So what you're gonna do now is I'm going to lay my needle on top of my working yarn. So what I need to do now, with my needle on top of my working yarn, I'm going to bring my crochet hook over top of the needle. I'm going to wrap the yarn around my crochet hook, just like I showed you previously, and then you're going to pull that through, and now you have your first provisional stitch. So I'll show you that again. So after I was done with the first provisional stitch, my working yarn naturally falls to the front of my needle. I need to move that behind my needle again before making the second provisional cast on stitch. So once again, the needle's on top, I have tension in my working yarn, and I have tension on my chain. I'm going to place the crochet hook over my needle. I'm going to wrap my yarn around my crochet hook from top to bottom, and I'm going to use my crochet hook to pull a chain onto the crochet hook, a new one, and then once again it naturally places the working yarn back on top of your needle, so you'll need to move that to the back before starting your third provisional cast-on stitch. Let's do it one more time. Your needle is on top of your working yarn. Move your crochet hook over your needle. Bring your yarn over your crochet hook from top to bottom and pull it through that stitch. So now we have 3 provisional cast-on stitches. You continue in this manner for however many stitches you need to cast on. I'll be casting on 120 stitches for my double thick cowl that I'll be making with y'all. For the sake of time, quickly cast on my 120 stitches, and then I'll show you where to go from there. See you in a second. All right, that was fun. So you'll notice after I finish my provisional cast on, I chained a few more stitches at the end there and cut the yarn. Now we're going to get our main color yarn to do our setup row. So I've got my main color here. This is Windmill Fibers Confession. Janine dyed this up specially for the Coastal Confessions Cowl and this brioche knit along, and I am absolutely in love with this color. It's like the perfect flamingo pink. It's spectacular. Okay, so we've got these stitches now on our needle, right? What do we do with them? Let me tell you. What I like to do, go back to where you started. See, there's my knot, letting me know that this is the end that I started on. And this is where I'm going to do the first stitch. And basically what I'm going to do is just knit across. So I'm going to take my main color. I like to just hold it like that to give it some tension. And then you just knit across. So I knit continental, but it really doesn't matter how you knit. You can knit this however you want. Just knit across one row. So now we have our provisional cast on, which here is this dark petrol color. And we have our setup row, which is Windmill Fibers Confession. And that, my friends, is the provisional cast on. My absolute favorite cast on, my most used cast on. Definitely my Valentine cast on. All the hard eyes for this one. All right, let me know if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, as always. And get ready for the next video tutorial, which is knitting the brioche stitch.